I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater. 2 research ships have vanished without a trace off the coast of Greece. The Seaview has been investigating, and Annette is bringing up some debris right now.
Get it up! Get up fast, that's no fish! Swing it in!
He's right, fish don't generally use air tanks. The man's gear didn't come from either of the missing ships, so who is he?
Get it back into the water, it's booby trap! Fast! Hit the deck!
That settles it. Whatever happened to those research vessels, humans had something to do with it, which means 2 entire crews were probably murdered. The Seaview is on the job, all they need is a lead, but first they need to see to their own situation.
Our biggest problem is the damage to the left elevator plane. If we were able to work on the surface, it would be bad enough, but down here it's going to take time.
Why are they sitting on the bottom? Admiral Nelson wants whoever is doing this to think they destroyed the Seaview too. No reason to let them know otherwise until those repairs are made and they're ready for a fight.
What do you know about these islands?
Nothing. Just the waters around them.
This is where both research ships picked up supplies and hired extra divers when they needed them. I'd like to know more about that island, Lee. More about the people who live there.
I know a good way to find out.
Next day, a Mr. Lee Glenn appears at the only hotel on whatever island this is and announces that he's a professional deep diver looking for work. In his room, he gets to work.
Crane to Seaview. Crane to Seaview. Come in, Seaview.
This is Seaview. We read you, sir. The Admiral's standing by for your report. Go ahead.
First step on schedule. Made shore at Landing Beach 1. I'm staying at the Athena Hotel, room 25.
His next check-in will be at 4 a.m. While he's out poking around, he'll need a safe place to stash the radio. Hopefully it'll be secure there. At the local tavern, he's trying to pick up some gossip about most anything.
Question?
You may ask.
You see, I like to skin dive. Spearfish, you know. But your native fishermen aren't very friendly. They won't tell anyone about their happy hunting fishing grounds. What's the matter with him?
Dimitri, his mind is all mixed up.
Dimitri there was a diver, do any job you wanted. Scrape barnacles, salvage jobs, you name it, he could do it. Then one day he got a really big salvage job and something happened down there. He washed up on shore nearly dead with 2 empty tanks. Over the months since it happened, he's gradually lost his ability to speak. But when he could speak, he told them something fantastic.
A city he saw. You see, I told you.
Go on, tell me more.
He said he saw buildings. A whole city under the sea.
He stumbled upon what was left of Rapture, but the big daddies that were still there chased him away. Mr. Glenn doesn't find it too fantastic to believe. He wants to know more. He says, show me where they found you. Dimitri is excited to find someone who might actually believe him. He takes Lee to the spot on the beach where they found him. Lee gets into his scuba gear and goes to check out the area. So far, he's found lots of kelp and the occasional fish. He tries to interrogate them, but they're not talking. It's too late to hide. That diver spotted him. Plus, when he's trying to hide, he doesn't have the good sense to hold his breath and stop making all those bubbles. If you're interested in scuba diving, you might have noticed that his pursuer is using a different type of air regulator. Crane is using the old style dual hose setup where the air comes in one hose and you exhale through the other hose. This person has the kind we use today. It has a single, much smaller hose to deliver the air, and when you exhale, it comes out these two vents here. It's a much simpler design than the older ones, and hence it's a lot more reliable. Now, I can hear someone asking, why do you need those things? Can't you just breathe off the tank? You could, but it's not a good idea. Those tanks are pressurized to anywhere from 2,400 to 4,000 psi. Your lungs can take about 200 before they burst. This thing, and another piece that goes with it, takes the high pressure from the tank and reduces it to around 120 to 140 psi, which is a comfortable pressure for breathing. If your home has natural gas, it has one of these, and that's where your meter is. If you have a gas barbecue, you have one of these things on it. It reduces the pressure from the propane tank to a gentle flow that you can control. It's all the same principle. Folks like me just tend to have a lot of fun with these particular ones. Crane will come out on top and drag his adversary to the surface.
What's the matter with you? You almost killed me down there.
Gosh, a lady.
I thought you were someone else. Someone who wanted to hurt me. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was frightened.
I don't believe a word you're saying. Come on.
You got a better story, Lee? Let's go see what Dimitri has to say.
Papa! 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 Papa!
Or not. At least now we have some idea who she is. Her name is Melina. Let's check in with the Seaview and then try to get the rest of the story.
Now, give me the map coordinates and we'll start searching the bottom. The repair party's still working on the elevator plane, so I'll have to send the mini-sub.
Based on what happened to those research ships, to Dimitri and all the rest, are you sure that's a good idea?
Underwater cave. Lots of heavy vegetation. Ridges and shelves. It's like a stairway out of a mountain.
Atlas, what sort of a mountain?
The kind that's made out of rock and stuff? How many kinds of mountain are there?
Can't make it out.
What's going on?
We're being jammed.
Water temperature rising. Current movements have changed.
I won't make you listen to it. All the instruments are going bonkers and the men in the mini-sub can't find the words to describe what's happening. Things get worse and worse until they lose contact altogether. Spoiler, those men won't be coming back. If I'm a seaman on that boat, the next time they call for volunteers to go in a mini-sub, I'm hiding under my bunk. Now, if they start making those things out of tougher stuff and maybe give them some weapons to defend themselves with, I might think about it. But until then, you can't see me, ha 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 ha.
You believed your father's story, didn't you? About a city under the sea.
Oh, yes. But the others, they only laughed. Nobody believed him. The village clown. You want to laugh? Go down to Nicholas Bar in the waterfront and buy Dimitri a drink.
Linda Crystal has an amazing story. Born in Argentina, when she was little, her family fled to Montevideo, Uruguay for reasons that are unclear, but it seems her father may have gotten into some political trouble and was in danger of retaliation. They weren't too well off, and when she was 13, both her parents died. A lot of conflicting stories surround that, too. An older brother took charge of the family, but they were pretty well dirt poor for a while. Linda went to school studying music, and while the family was in Mexico, a movie producer spotted her and offered her a part in a film. She spent the next couple of years starring in several Mexican movies, but eventually her sights turned to Hollywood. She was already fluent in Spanish, French, and Italian, so learning English wasn't that difficult since much of English is a slumgullion of those and a few other languages. She starred in some movies and then took a brief hiatus. Again, reports differ as to why. Some say she was in a car accident, others say she just took time off to raise her kids. In any case, when she came back with a vengeance. After a couple more movie roles, she landed the TV part that put her on the map, Victoria Cannon, wife of Big John Cannon of the High Chaparral Ranch. If you're a regular here, you know that show also featured Henry Darrow, one of my all-time favorite actors. High Chaparral ran for 4 seasons and established her as a serious, award-winning actress. Not long afterwards, she took a break from acting and started a number of successful businesses. She came out of semi-retirement in 1988 to do a short stint on General Hospital, and then just sat back and enjoyed the rest of her life. She died in 2020 at the age of 89.
Melina, if it means anything to you, I don't believe your father was a clown. I believe he really saw something down there. And somehow, we're going to prove it.
He's not sure how yet, but he does have the resources of the world's most advanced submarine at his disposal, so that'll probably help.
Nice night.
If he has a white cat on his lap, I may scream.
Word's around you're a deep diver looking for a job.
Oh, well, you came to the right party.
Let's go.
Right now?
To get a job, somebody has to hire you. The man who hires is the man who's the boss. Do you, want to meet the boss?
I want to meet the boss.
Good.
The boss has a flair for the dramatic, whoever he is. Was the cloak and dagger really necessary, or are we just out to intimidate the new guy?
My name is Leopold Zara. Welcome. And what brings you here to this tiny little island?
Oh, I go anywhere. Large islands, small islands. But what about you, Mr. Zaroff? What makes a diver so special to you?
My first diver became careless his first time down, which brings you to me.
It's hard to see from that angle, but Mr. Zaroff is confined to a wheelchair. Later on, we'll see that he's an avid diver, and he uses a thing we call a diver propulsion vehicle, or DPV, to get around. Thing is, at least today, no diver has the patience to say diver propulsion vehicle, so we call it a scooter.
Down there lie great riches, and I am willing to share some of their value with the man who gets them for me.
How much is some, Mr. Zaroff?
Well, if you find nothing, $1,000 for your trouble. But if you are successful, 25% to you, 75% to me.
Sounds like a good deal to me. Mr. Lee Glenn likes the sound of it, too.
You just bought yourself a diver, Mr. Zaroff. See you in the morning.
Well, don't rush off. You could stay here.
Oh, my diving gear's in the hotel.
Oh, we have plenty of gear, I assure you. Will you show this gentleman to his room?
He has to know that no deep diver worth the price will go down there with unfamiliar gear. If they don't go with their own gear, they don't go. That tells Lee this isn't about needing a diver, it's about keeping him under control. He's essentially a captive. Worse, it means he can't make his check-in time with the Seaview.
Crane. Seaview to Crane. Repeating, Seaview to Crane.
Not that he'd be able to anyway, but now we know why they don't want him going back to the hotel. As I said earlier, Linda Crystal had a fascinating story, and she's got nothing on this guy. Herb Hatfield studied acting in England and got his start there. Back in the U.S., his first film role saw him, Katharine Hepburn, and several other white people trying to portray Chinese peasants. Welcome to Hollywood in the 20th century. His second movie saw him in the starring role of the 1945 adaptation of The Picture of Dorian Gray. It made him an instant star, and as far as he was concerned, it ruined his life. He wanted to do comedy, but almost never got the chance. His performance as Dorian Gray got him so typecast he couldn't get any roles except ones like this, the handsome, narcissistic, use 'em then lose 'em man who would be great. The one good thing that came out of that movie was his lifelong friendship with Angela Lansbury. When he was down, she got him several guest appearances on Murder, She Wrote, and convinced him to move to Ireland and buy a place close to where she lived at the time. He died at the age of 81, still regretting his sudden rise to fame. I've talked a lot about typecasting on this channel. There are those who can't handle it, such as Burt Ward. He and several others we've looked at just gave up and quit acting. Then there are the Georgia Engels who said, "I'm getting typecast. Cool, steady work," and embraced it. Some folks could take it and run with it and make an enjoyable life out of it. It's too bad our man here couldn't do that. It leaves me wondering why he didn't do a Burt Ward and go into something else rather than choose to be miserable for the rest of his life. Since most all these people are gone now, we can't look into their heads and find out what they were thinking. But I have to feel bad for Mr. Hatfield. Nobody should have to be stuck in something they hate for their entire life. It's a shame he couldn't find a way to break out. What's so funny, I hear you cry? No experienced diver would go off a boat like that. It's the best way in the world to get your mask knocked off your face and your regulator ripped out of your mouth, which means you'll probably drown here shortly. You go off feet first, holding your mask and regulator against your face nice and tightly so they stay in place. Unless, of course, you want to get in trouble in the water. And he doesn't need any help getting into trouble down there. He's doing a fine job all by himself. Those guys will take him captive and point him in a certain direction. No wonder Dmitri was speechless. Each of those glowing, blinking things is a separate building. Why do they blink? So they show up on camera better? How should I know? They'll force him into one of them. Lots of people are getting concerned. He's 4 hours overdue to check in with the sub, and Molina can't seem to find him now either.
Lee Glenn, why, you can see for yourself there's no Lee Glenn registered here.
But room 25, he said.
Room 25? Oh, yes. Oh, Sarah Tonnison occupies that room. A very sweet little lady on a world cruise.
I don't find him very convincing. Neither does Molina. I have a feeling she's familiar with the trick of keeping 2 books.
But you're not the sweet little lady.
Well, not exactly. You don't look like you are either.
He may be a little lady, but nobody describes him as sweet.
Name? Harriman Jones. Occupation, Lee Glenn's friend, enemy, partner, rival, big brother, blood brother. And sometimes I'd like to bash his head in. You?
I'm Melina Gaunaris. He didn't tell me anything about you.
Well, he owes me $100, that's why. I took my last dollar and beat it.
She takes Harriman Jones out and shows him the spot where they found her father and where Mr. Glenn went to explore. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Zaroff wants to keep his city a secret from the surface until he's finished with what he's doing, so the best way to keep your operation secret is to start kidnapping and murdering people. He's got money and a lot of knowledge about the undersea world, but he sucks at stealth. I rest my case. Nice and subtle, really going for secrecy there, Leo. Good job. And by the way, you missed. They have to know he's another government man, and they have to know this is going to bring the power of the U.S. government down on them like a load of anvils. Thing is, Zaroff isn't worried about that. He's got it covered.
With this instrument, I can perform miracles. I can lure marine life into traps, throw off the most sensitive sonar and radar equipment, Render any acoustic signals too erratic and unreliable for tracking purposes, including the Seaview.
He reveals that this was how he destroyed the 2 research ships.
Your submarine can never track me down.
I did.
Oh, I believe it was the other way around, was it not? Oh, for me, you are not expendable. You are negotiable, sir. You have a talent, Captain. I could use you. You could name your own terms to help deliver me the Seaview.
He really thinks Crane would consider such a thing. That's how it is with these guys who are so full of themselves. They can't understand why anybody wouldn't want to be under their thumbs since they're clearly a superior species.
Relics everywhere you look. Storage tanks of explosives, sea sleds, underwater missile pads, wall-to-wall push buttons. What are you trying to do anyway? Take over the world?
This is my world. I explored it, and I built it at the bottom of the sea.
But like all such egomaniacs, this isn't enough for him.
This city is just the first of many. Soon there will be others throughout the 7 seas. And before your world awakens, to discover what is happening, I will control all the greatest treasures of time, untapped by man. Oil, gold, minerals, food enough for 100 lifetimes.
And what will he do with them once he controls them? I know I'm coming back to BioShock a lot, but that's one thing I have to give the creators of that game. They made Andrew Ryan consistent. He didn't care about the world up here. He built Rapture to get away from the surface world, not to control it. Of course, considering what happened to his monument to unfettered capitalism, it's possible he didn't have time to think about what was going on up here. But I'm not going to go down that side road. At least not today.
I say I'm expendable.
Nelson has already sacrificed too much. The minisub, the 2-man crew.
Lee didn't know about that. Now he's beyond furious, but Zaroff says he won't sacrifice you too.
You don't know him. He'll destroy you and your city.
You underestimate me, Captain. Up there, I am no match for you. I am a snail. Down here, I'm a shark.
In my book, you're a man-eating piranha.
Thank you, Captain. I accept that as a compliment.
Crane needs to work on his insults because that was just, I don't know what to call it. He calls himself a predator and you try to insult him by calling him a different predator? Call him a guppy, a goldfish, a bottom-dwelling toadfish. Something that's the hunted, not the hunter. Instead, Crane just gave him something new to put on his business card. And by the way, Captain, there's a very easy way out of this.
Show the captain to his room, please.
Grab him. Wrap an arm around his neck and offer to snap it if he doesn't cooperate. Remind him that his men might take you down, but not before you turn him into an owl that can swivel his head clear around. Lee won't think of that, even though it's the most obvious course of action. The guy is sitting there within reach with no recourse if Lee does what I said. I keep saying these people need to listen to me, and they never do. Aboard the Seaview, Admiral Nelson has been looking at his charts, sorting out where Dimitri's stuff happened, where the ships disappeared, where the mini-sub vanished, and all the rest. He's got a search area narrowed down, so let's go find that city and deal with it. Crane overpowers his guard, makes his way to the exit, and slips into dive gear. But he can't leave yet, someone is coming in. He could do that better if he'd slipped the tank off first, but it won't matter. More goons will appear and subdue both of them.
We always seem to be meeting underwater.
Oh, how did you get here?
There was this man, Harriman Jones. He said you owed him $100.
He's not listening. The name Harriman got his attention, and now he knows help is on the way. And at least he has pleasant company. They're a good-looking couple. Zaroff says they should produce many robust offspring.
Almost one big happy family.
I told you once. You won't make this work.
Oh, but it is working. Exactly as I wanted it to. That was a foolhardy attempt, that escape of yours.
I nearly made it.
You never would have come to the surface alive. You were just fortunate.
Supply ship approaching.
Grab him! He's sitting there completely vulnerable. He has no weapons, not even a close-by button he can push if you drag him away from the doorway. I don't know why Crane won't think of such a simple move. But this supply ship may be the opportunity most everybody has been looking for.
I must persuade you to see my point of view. I hope I don't have to demonstrate with the young lady. It would be a pity.
He described a bottomless trench not far from the city. He's saying, don't try to escape again or I'll drop her into it. And excuse me, but I find that terrified look on Crane's face just wrong. It started while Zaroff was describing the pressure and darkness in the trench, and I don't get it. He's faced worse than that, so unless he's faking, that expression is seriously out of character.
So if you will excuse me, Captain, I have to unload some valuable cargo.
I still don't understand why Crane doesn't grab him and use him as a hostage. Probably has something to do with runtime. To make sure they don't try something again, the goons put handcuffs on him and Molina.
The main crew is out there helping unload. That means there's a man on duty in the control center, and the guard in the corridor. He has the keys. Let's invite him in. Let's give him something to worry about. Come on. Pillows, blankets, anything.
Okay, I guess that expression was fake, and it looks like it worked. Zaroff thinks he's completely cowed. He stuffs that air vent with pillows, blankets, anything to stop it up and shut off the airflow.
I don't understand.
Look, air pressure keeps the water out. If we change the pressure, the place will flood. That's it.
I'm not sure that's precisely how that works, but it's worth a try. And it's definitely getting the bad guy's attention. Good idea. Once you knock the guard out, you'll need something to tie him up with.
Get back! Get back! The air! What happened to the air?
That's what you use the wire for, to pull that bench over. And they won't tie him up, they'll just take the keys and undo the handcuffs, then run away, which means he'll get up and raise the alarm. Are we sure Crane knows what he's doing? The Seaview is finally repaired, at least enough to go hunting. Though why she's on the surface now is anybody's guess.
Large objects ahead. Stationary, like buildings.
Admiral, sonar's picked up something. It could be the city.
Let's take a look through the camera on the sub's nose. It's quicker than walking to the observation dome.
Holy smoke! Will you look at that?
Wait, we were just on the surface, but that angle suggests we're maybe 100 to 200 feet above the whole mess. We got down there in a hurry. While they switch to silent running and move in for the kill, Crane and Molina are getting out of Dodge. We saw Zaroff go off with his scooter to supervise the supply unloading. Good thing he left a spare.
Red alert, red alert. Submarine approaching at close range.
Starfish, starfish. Ready missiles. I'm coming back. Starfish, starfish. Ready missiles. I'm coming back.
In case you're wondering how he heard that without any kind of headset or other device, it's simple. Radio-controlled cochlear implant. It keeps him in line. When he gets out of control, one of those guys just screams into it. Okay, that is some inexcusable editing. That's the wrong footage. If they're on the surface, they're not down there silently approaching Zaroff City. Irwin, whoever did that, you need to dock him a day's pay. That's just sloppy. Even worse, we'll do it multiple times as if to reinforce the idea that somebody wasn't paying attention. Meanwhile, Crane has realized that Zaroff is stalking them, so he has Molina go hide while he deals with the threat. Zaroff is having a hard time getting Lee in his sights. That's the thing about spear guns. You'd better make that first shot count because one is all you get. Speaking of shooting first, Zaroff's men are about to make a big mistake.
Fire! Torpedo salvo, dead ahead. Full evasive action, rig for torpedo attack.
Torpedo miss, you mean? And that mistake I mentioned? The Seaview now knows exactly where those came from and exactly where to fire their own torpedoes. And buildings are really bad at evasive maneuvers. The quickest way for Crane to end this is just to pull the trigger on that thing and send the spear off to who knows where. That removes the lethal danger and he can deal with this like a regular fight. Pull the trigger! That wasn't exactly what I meant, but okay, it works. Zaroff just learned that he's not a different species than the rest of us, and his internal organs are just as vulnerable as everybody else's. I still don't know why Lee didn't grab him and demonstrate that that's also true of his neck bones, but at least he finally got around to doing something. Zaroff is dead and nobody cares about trying to recover his body. He can decompose on the bottom of his beloved ocean and enrich the sea by becoming crab poop.
Fire one.
Run away!
Fire two. Fire two.
Go away!
Crane and Molina have found a place to take cover and watch the action. Remember what he said about changing the air pressure in the place? Yeah, those torpedoes made a big change in the air pressure, and the whole city is feeling it. At least they feel it until the dome they're in does that, then they don't care. It's amazing how much it takes to build something like that, and how little it takes to destroy it. There's a lesson in that, but each one of us has to figure out for themselves what it is. Our two impromptu divers are back on board the Seaview, and apparently no worse for the experience.
Well, if it isn't that sweet little old lady on a world cruise.
Well, someday you have to get him to explain that.
Admiral, the next time, if you can't do better than that $100 deadbeat routine, I'm going back to the Navy.
I'm glad you cleared that up for her. This was a fairly generic plot, though in 1962 the underwater angle hadn't really been done to any great degree that I know of. Aside from the little bonehead mistakes like the Seaview being on the surface when it's on the bottom, it was good. I liked the angle of having the big bad in a wheelchair too. It helped explain why he's so intent on proving to himself that he's just as good as those hairless monkeys up there. And in the end, he learned that he's just another one of those hairless monkeys too. His disability didn't make him inferior, just different. He didn't see it that way, and it cost him and everybody who followed him dearly. The Seaview spent the next 3 years cleaning up all the rubble. The show's producers wanted to make several episodes out of that, but the network said turning the submarine into a giant underwater vacuum cleaner wouldn't get good ratings, especially since they had to surface every 5 minutes to empty the dirt bag. And when they did, all the debris fell back down to the bottom and they had to do it all over again. I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater. Hey friends, before we get to the bloopers, I want to tell you about a great project that ties in with today's story. The Wounded Warrior Scuba Project makes it possible for people with disabilities such as the kind Zaroff had to be able to scuba dive. The program provides special equipment and training, especially for disabled veterans. It's an excellent program that could use your help. They take cash donations, of course, but more significant, if you have any scuba equipment that you're not using anymore and it works, you can donate it to the program and know that someone will get good use out of it. There are local chapters all over the place. The link to their website is on the screen and in the description. Check them out, and if you can help, that'd be great. If you're a disabled veteran and you're interested in scuba diving, contact them and they can get you started. Either way, give them a look. And as always, thanks for watching. But Mr. Zaroff is confined. Good grief. We saw him starring in. Come on, read the line. To know this is going to bring. Don't hit the microphone. The pressure and trenchness in the dark. Yes.